good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Economic Times Best Corporate Brands 2016, an evening to recognize the top leading corporates who have successfully branded themselves and have created an impact in the minds of the consumers. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to give a beautiful head start to this evening, and I'd like to invite on stage Mr. Vineet Bagadia, the Sector Head, Times Conferences Limited, to please come on stage and present the opening remarks. Let's have a huge round of applause. Please help me welcome Mr. Vineet Bagadia.
It is my pleasure and privilege to welcome all of you to an evening that looks to recognize and felicitate some of the most iconic corporate brands, all of which have proven to be titans of their respective industries. The Economic Times Best Corporate 2016 initiatives looks to shine and spotlight on brands that have created an impact on the mind of the consumers. This evening looks to recognize corporate brands that have challenged the norms and redefined the paradigm of success. I wish you all an insightful evening and welcome all of you once again. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Vineet, for setting the tone for this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further delay, we're going to get started with the panel discussion that focuses on the theme, stakeholders' involvement, creating, building, and protecting the brand.
Actually, it's a topic where you can have as many views as many people. And I'll just like to set the tone by giving one or two examples that I think when we all started out in marketing 10, 20 years back, there was a marketing department which would do communication, which is communicate with the customers, whether it be in form of an advertisement or any other communication, and customers would look at the communication, and behind in the organization there were different departments working within themselves. And it was only the marketing department dealing with the customers, or sales. When I say sales and marketing, let's say more or less as one. But I'll give you one example which totally will confuse that whose role it is to deal with the customer. I think everybody must have read around a month back, Sachin Tendulkar's bags got delayed at one of the airports in UK, and hell broke loose. And I think the whole brand, the discussions took a toll on the brand, and it was the last, probably the last, people handling the baggage at the airport, whether they did or not did their job, that decided the brand experience to the customer, which became an issue worldwide, and it was trending in social media. I think also today, anybody can be a brand endorser, anybody can say something and it can trend, so you don't even know from where it is coming. So I personally believe that today it's no more than the marketing department which has to only communicate. Of course they have to, they have an important role. But I think the times have changed today. Every department, every associate, everybody who's joined or is joining the organization or associated with the company, whether a vendor, whether a finance department, I think they impact the way the brand is seen today or how the brand exists in the organization. Now that is my premise, and that is the premise of the topic. But I will not take it for granted, and what I'll do is, first of all, I'll ask the panelists to give their position on this topic so we can have a view on whether they agree, disagree, or to which extent they think the world has come. Prabal, we can start with you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think my perspective on this particular issue is very clear. It is not only the domain of the marketing people or the advertisement guys in the organization, but I think it is becoming like any other discipline where each and everybody in the organization is responsible for it squarely, and in a much bigger fashion than anybody can think of it.
Very interesting, Prabal. So what's your take? How many between this product organization, brand organization versus organizational brand?
I guess there are companies with multiple products like FMCG, and there are companies with one brand, one product. Right? And I feel that they always have a rub-off effect, and it can be a parent brand, and it could be a child brand, but the ethos and the ethics and the values of the brand needs to make sense. So definitely, yes, a parent brand has a longer life, and a child brand probably can come and go, but they have to be in sync with each other all the time.
Sure. Sanjay, we'll love to have your take on this.
This is really very interesting. Today, in this very competitive world, some of the companies are looking at B2B because it is commodity market. some of his consumers, retails, it is B2C. This is very important. That is how now people are reaching to the customers. They try to customize the need of the customers. They don't only look at the cost. Maybe it is costly affair for the customer because it is to be customized. So for a brand organizations, they don't look at only the cost. They don't compromise with certain integrity, certain ethics, which they maintained. In spite of they look at their top and bottom lines. It may affect you temporarily. The kind of strength, if you can pinch in your customer that you are very caring for the customers. And to that extent, you invest, use whatever they need. I think that is called branding.
Apurva, let's have your thoughts on the topic itself first.
So, I'll paraphrase a famous marketing thinker who basically said marketing is too important to be left to the marketers. I firmly believe that brand is very, very important.
Yeah.
In fact, it's too important to be left to the brand managers. And it has evolved a lot. So 10, 20 years ago was the era of Marcom, marketing communications, where the brand managers created fancy TVCs, delivered GRPs, and created a brand out of that. We didn't have digital media. Last 5, 7 years, digital media has completely flattened the world. And the power has actually shifted from brand managers to consumers. In fact, the consumers today have a disproportionate amount of power over the brand. And brand is not what you beam, but brand is the experience which the customer gets at every touch point, every interface with the brand. So how do you bring that to life? You can only bring it to life if you practice MarTech. So while you have mastered Marcom, you need to practice MarTech. So if the British Airways Twitter handle knew that this is Sachin Ramesh Tendulkar, he's an influencer, to go back to your example, and could quickly respond back, it would have been a huge PR success. But of course, they were not enabled with MarTech. And to actually do it at scale, you really, really need to be exceptional at MarOps, marketing operations, where you can do this across states, across countries, using the power of big data and technology. So if you can master these three almost pivotal pillars of marketing, then you truly become a 21st century brand.
So let me develop on it, Apurva, very well said. So my question is that despite that we all seem to know it, are people practicing it? Are organizations making sure that every department understands and learns that it is not just the marketing department, but everybody, even the last person, and it can impact the brand so much that even the CEO feels helpless. What are we doing about it? Who's taking care of it? Or is it only, people just speak about it. Are they doing something about it?
Usually your chief marketing officer is the MBA. MBAs hire more MBAs and expect different results. Today, actually to be a successful marketer or an outstanding marketing team, which is aligned to today's digital world, you need to have sociologists in your marketing team. You need to have design thinkers. You need to have, big data experts. Across India and most of the top marketing firms internationally, they're just full of the same kind of people. And this mishap is perpetuated because every next run you hire the same kind of people, and then you expect different results. It's not going to change easily. It's a cultural change. Most people are aware of it, but change never comes easy. That's my take.
So, I agree with everything that you say, and absolutely, marketing needs to be far more customer-centric and far more tech-enabled. But I guess one thing that we're discussing here is who's responsible for creating the right brand impression in the mind of the consumer. Whose primary KPI in the organization it is. And I firmly believe that it has to be the KPI of the CEO. And only if it is in the KPI of the CEO will all the arms and legs of the organization believe that it is their business to look after the brand. I think marketing serves a very important part. It could be the ears and eyes of the organization to understand what customers are thinking, what their needs are. And it could also be the arm to convey, to communicate to the customers as to what the brand is all about. But beyond that today, and of course it differs from category to category, but in categories like computers, where by and large customers are informed, customers don't just believe you what you tell them in an advertisement. Right? They believe their own experience, they believe in word of mouth.
Yeah.
And that is where every interaction of the organization becomes important, far beyond the interaction that marketing team can bring on the table.
So Rahul, very interesting what you said, that the marketing department can pick up insights, consumer insights, play to the organization, educate them. But unless the CEO picks up the gauntlet, the marketing department can't go to all the other departments and say that dealing with the brand or corporate brand or product brand, organization brand is everybody's job. That falls on the CEO as leadership. So let's deliberate, and let me start with you, Prabal. How much of that is happening?
In my opinion, till the time all the disciplines in any organization, including HR, including finance, actually takes up and owns up the responsibility of brand creation, as well as maintenance of that brand at the pinnacle of their reputation, till the time that happens in each and every organization, we are not going to see that brand is getting created and it is getting sustained. That's number one. Number two, many of the people, even today, and particularly in India, in my experience, I have seen, still thinks that brand marketing is only the marketing department is the custodians of all those, whereas it is not so. It is the organizational responsibility, severally and jointly. So what is important is that each and every discipline of the organization has to take part in its responsibility and has to ensure they have an equal role to play in building the brand and maintaining it for the foreseeable future.
Oh, thanks, Prabal. Rahul, let me come to a point which we just discussed some time back. What is your view on spends on advertising versus spends on customer experience? So let's talk about that. How do you see that shift from a little less known brand to a well-known brand and shift from marketing to the other departments?
I think the journey that a brand takes in its life clearly has a very clear impact on the level of brand investment you do, but more importantly, on the kind of marketing and brand building that you do. And as I said, everything starts with the way you define. And Bajaj may want to define its brand in a certain way. And as I said, for Lenovo, it's what do you feel at the end of the life cycle of a computer or a phone. I guess the answer will differ depending on the stage that A, your organization is, B, the product category.
I think it will be, we will be wrong if we actually look at the absolute amount of spending that any organization spends on brand investment and brand promotion. Everything is relative. As we see return on investment, return on equity, return on capital employed, I think it is important that we look at the overall expenditure on brand investment as to compared with how much benefit we are getting, which we actually have started talking about ROBI, which is return on brand investment. And in absolute value, if we look at 100 crore expenditure on ROBI, on brand investment, and as a result, we get a profit of 10 crores, incremental profit, delta, as we call it, then it may not be worth it, although the marketing team might think that it's great to have 100 crores. Whereas, you can actually spend 1,000 crores, which is obviously in absolute terms much higher than 100 crores, but the real term benefit in profit, bottom line, may be much more than even 1,000 crores. So I think we need to have a related expenditure figures, and it is one of the major responsibilities of the finance department to contribute that to the whole management team, including the marketing team, to tell them where they are going wrong. Is the ROBI or return on brand investment is giving them any return, or it's actually a waste of money? And I think that is where an equilibrium or a trade-off has to be drawn in by the entire management team, helped and assisted by the finance team. And that is where the role comes in. For instance, they also have to look at very carefully that once the policies and parameters have been brought out on the strategic dimension of brand development, whether a new brand or sustaining an old brand, the finance department also has to perform a role and responsibility that people are not going out of that under any circumstances, which will border on a gray area, and there can be a complaint filed against the organization in the ASCII or administrative organization that controls the advertisement contours of this country. So these are the things that they need to look at and sit jointly with the entire team and see where the organization is going in financial terms as well as in non-financial terms.
The world also did re-engineering and then said that make or buy, right? Like, let's differentiate between a FMCG product versus consumer durables, let's say, which needs an after-sales service, like let's say an air conditioner or a washing machine, where there's a very different experience where it's pre-purchase, a lot of, nice marketing, brand, and then later comes somebody home to do the servicing of the machine, and that is the moment of truth. The customer does not care or does not know whether this person is some outsourced guy or he's the brand which I bought. And then comes a dissonance. He sees a great international or a national brand, and then somebody who's coming and not matching up to it. So what are we doing about it? I mean,
if you actually outsource the services of those units, actually it many a times more, it leads to disastrous consequences.
That is true.
And you will find that multinationals, whether it is LG, Samsung, Philips, etc., most of them try to do it in-house, or even if they had to outsource it for some compelling reasons, they always ensure that it is closely monitored by their in-house team, and very often by an expatriate or a foreigner who will be very sticky with the quality controls that they impose. I think you can still take some amount of risk whether the cost, but as far as services and post-sale services are concerned, no manufacturer in this country should take a risk because the Indian customers are very, very fussy about it.
So I believe outsourcing is here to stay.
Yeah.
Not because I work for an outsourcing firm, but basically what has happened in the 21st century is your competitive advantage is no more your value chain. Network of value chains come into play.
Yeah.
And it is very, very hard for an organization which is not defining after-sales service as its competitive advantage to really focus on it. Because you might be a retailer or a bank, but after-sales is just one of the things you do. It's not the only thing you do. We have the fortune of serving many international companies where we run their service centers. And the service center is a competitive advantage. In that case, they retain the operations. If it is not a competitive advantage, they outsource it to us. When they outsource it to us, we work on making it a competitive advantage for them. We bring in, and the way we look at it is, the best experience is no experience at all. So the best trouble ticket is the machine doesn't break down, right? That's the best experience. So how do you proactively do root cause analysis? How do you kill trouble tickets? How do you improve the quality of service? If you don't have almost Zen-like focus on that, and you're running a service center like one of the many other departments, very, very hard to succeed. Because this is the experience economy. When you take a Uber or when you use an Airbnb, they don't win because they are asset intensive. Airbnb is the largest hotel chain in the world, does not own one hotel. Uber is the largest travel company, does not own. So the whole asset intensive model of competitive advantage has gone. Today's model is asset light, work with best in breed, outsource wherever possible, and create a value chain which is completely agile, nimble, and modular in nature.
Absolutely.
And this requires an absolutely different way of thinking.
I'm not going into this, but I think as far as customers and their brands are concerned, one thing is for sure. In our financial community, we say that banking is not a business of money. Banking is a business of trust and faith. Similarly, I would like to point out that as far as branding and product development and the sustainability of that product is concerned, I think we need to find out whether through a proper mix of insourcing and outsourcing or any other way, whether the segment of customers whom we are approaching has got that sustainable long-term faith in the organization and in the product that they are reposing their own money in, their faith in. If that is there, the entire money spent on communications, brand development, advertisement is worth every penny of it.
Absolutely.
If you can't do that, no matter what you do, in-source, outsource, and all of that, let me tell you, the customers will actually run away to your competitors. The question is that how you are going to do that. Yes, one way is spending on maybe papers like Economic Times, advertising, EDT Now, as we all see. That's one part of it. But the rest of it actually rests with us. We need to create that trust in the minds of the consumers that this is not the best product, this is the value for money, and in the long run, you can't get anything better than this. Till the time we have done that, no matter whether you insource, outsource, look at your own financial calculations by the finance team, my humble submission is that it's not going to impact your business volumes. It is only when it creates a positive delta in your financial numbers, your shareholders will not change the CEO every annual general meeting as they do it in United States and Europe. So let's bucket up and let's see that every step that we take from each and every discipline of the organization along with the CEO delivers that kind of faith in the consumer's mind that we are here long term to stay and support their daily lives in a positive manner. And that is what we should look at very positively.
Thanks, Prabal, and I think we have only some very few minutes left. So if there are any questions, we could take that. And if you could please direct it to which panel member you would like to ask.
My question is about brands from India really not reaching global scales or becoming global brands. So is that a culture problem of Indian culture, organization culture? How do Indian brands, barring a couple of them, really, there are not many who are global. So it's open to the panel.
Who wants to take that?
So, thank you. I think it's a very interesting question. I don't think it's a question of whether we can or not. We will. We are on the way. And we will dominate. This is our time. I think Indian market has been hugely lucrative in a lot of sectors, which means companies and brands have been domestic focused. That is changing. In a lot of industries, India has country of origin advantage, like technology, where Indian tech is considered world class. For a leading aircraft manufacturer, 80% of the software written inside the aircraft is written by HCL employees. So Indian brands in certain sectors are really going global. It's a question of time. It's a question of, the way I like to think of our brand is, the only risk is not taking a risk. Most CEOs, CFOs are very risk averse. They are very maintenance minded. While to actually create a global brand, you can't be a run the business leader. You have to be a change the business leader. It's a different kind of mentality. And we are now seeing a lot of Indian execs who have the appetite to go global. It's a question of time.
So at this point, allow me to thank Prabal, Sanjay, Apurva, and Rahul. And I think while we all come from different industries, different segments, different functions, we all have come to an agreement that from that old couple of years, and Rahul says 45 years old, I used to say 10, 20 years old, world where marketing department was in charge of the customers. I think today every stakeholder, every associate, every vendor, everybody who touches your life is in charge of a brand in some way or the other. And I think while answers are yet to be found, but at least we are very clear that that is the way forward.
Yep.
So I think on that note, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.